What up, YouTube? It's your boy, Detroit Love, with another video. I want to talk. What's going on, gentlemen? What's going on, Zero Sleep? You got Jason in the house. All is well over here. Hope the same is with you, gentlemen. And we also have Carl O. And the added benefit to having the arcade is heat in the winter. Absolutely. Maurice is in the house. What's going on, gentlemen? Just want to talk some Numskull today. 7 o'clock on a Tuesday. What else are we doing, right? And I don't really get to come and hang out with you guys. So wanted to get in. I don't know when the other guys do live videos. So hoping I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. But I received a what up, Dan? I received a gift from Numskull, and that's in the form of the Space Invaders Part 2. Space Invaders Part 2 cabinet. I am a big fan. What's up, Nostalgia? I wish I could have came down to up to Toronto, up and over to Toronto. That would have been fantastic to be able to meet you for the first time and hang out with Michael B as well. But with the holidays, it just wasn't going to happen. Spent a lot of time with the family, and I got a split time now. I got my youngest are girls, and they go spend time with their boyfriends over Thanksgiving. So I got to give them the day after and the Saturday to spend time with the ladies. And they actually brought their boyfriends, and we had a great time going up to Frankenmuth, which is a German-based city here. They have a Bronner's Christmas store. The girls like to go and get their Christmas decorations. And then we actually went on a tour, a Christmas lights tour. It was at night. It was like a 5-hour tour. We did BYOB. We drive to a location, got on a bus, had our drinks, and they drove us to 3 different venues. Had about an hour each venue. They had all the lights lit up. Rochester was one location, Canterbury Village, and the final destination was downtown Detroit at the Campus Martians location. The lights were very beautiful. There was tons of people at all venues. So it's a pretty cool time with the family. What's going on? Let me see who else has showed up here. Devil, Waldo, what's going on, brother? Peace. So guys, so I guess I can put the chat up on the screen for a minute or two. Let your words come across. Like that one. And we turn off this logo. All right. What's going on, Stephen Ramsey? So I want to talk Numskull. And I've been a big fan of Numskull. So you guys let me know if you guys have any of their cabinets. Let me know if you have any of their cabinets. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys have one of their cabinets. 0 if you do not have any of their cabinets currently. So that'll be the first question. So we can see what we're working with here. Okay. But I previously had the Pac-Man. All right. So, okay. I had the Pac-Man cabinet, and I really, really love that cabinet. It's a very nice sized cabinet. These cabinets are beautiful to display, but you also get to play them. And that's what I like about both their products as well as their competitors' products. So none of you guys have them, so you haven't seen them and had them in your hand. These things are really, really built well. And so they have several different cabinets to choose from. Obviously, the Turtles is one of the newer ones. And I I thought hard and long because they gave me an opportunity to pick either one of the two turtles or one of the two Space Invaders. Um, yeah, I am not. I've never really been a big collector. Never been a big collector. So I see Quarter Deck Arcades has one. He has the Dig Dug. Awesome. Dig Dug is one of my favorite games as well. I love some Dig Dug. I do not like Dig Dug 2 at all, but Dig Dug is definitely a great game. Um, so they gave me a choice to get the Turtles or the Space Invaders, and it was really a split. It was almost 50-50 split on which way I wanted to go, um, because I love their cabinets. I know they look fantastic. I definitely want to display them in my game room, um, and I tell you, I was leaning towards Turtles because I think of the two cabinets, Turtles I would play the most, right? I would play the most and can get somebody. It's a four-player, but you really realistically probably only can get two people on it. But you're never going to play any of these cabinets for long. But 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 other two, I think I would play the Turtles more often. But to have the Space Invaders is like the OG uh, game, short of Pong and those type of games. Space Invaders was really the first arcade cabinet that really got people into the arcade. Um, Pong was very popular, and then they had the home versions. Um, Space Invaders obviously has been duplicated on a lot of different platforms, but the cabinets are absolutely beautiful. Um, and so I just had to go with the Space Invaders. And then of the two, do I go with the original Space Invaders or Part Two? And I chose two because realistically, there's not a big difference between the two of them, but the Part Two at least has the color, and they had some different effects with the way the spaceships were handled. Sometimes they split, and so if you're going to have one or two, might as well get the newer of the two. So that was my thinking. Um, so most of you guys have not have had do not own one. So you're the great crowd to be able to ask questions and to discuss this with. So Zero Sleep says, I wonder if there is a noticeable build quality difference between the original cabs and these the ones listed. I wonder if there's a noticeable build quality difference between the original cabs and the new ones listed. So I have the Pac-Man, which I've had for a couple of years now, and now I have this newer version, Space Invaders. They both are built very well. I mean, I always say if I was kin size, these would have the weight and would feel just like a real arcade if I pushed on it. These things are really, really, really well made. But Space Invaders. So Stephen Ramsey has a, a comment here. He says, Space Invaders by itself kind of boring, but with the proper cab or OG, there's a lot of art there. Absolutely, and I agree. We have a lot of options. We have a lot of options of games to play. We have multicast. We have all these different cabinets. Um, how often will you go and play Space Invaders? And when Arcade One Up came out with the Space Invaders cabinet, a few people bought them. I had zero interest in getting it because I know it's not a game I would play often. Um, and that's why I like it because I would like to be able to show off. I would like to be able to play it and play it with the original arcade ROM and be able to have that experience. And I can get that in this cabinet as opposed to taking up all the space that the arcade one up version uh, would have taken up. It's just not a game that warrants that type of real estate. But it's a game that definitely justifies the space that the Numskull Quarter Arcade cabinet takes up. So that was my thinking, and I absolutely love it. So I have the two cabinets. Um, Not as many, not as many as I have of the New Wave arcade, the New Wave toys cabinets, but definitely. Uh, I don't know how many I would have of the Numskull, and I think Zero Sleep had a comment very on before we started, and I want to put his comment up here. He says, "Yeah, I see myself collecting every New Wave toys put out, but Numskull, I'll probably cherry pick." He meant the personal favorites, and that's definitely it, because these definitely take up more space. So obviously, they're going to require a lot more real estate than the New Wave Toys 1/6 scale does at a quarter scale. So yeah, you want to cherry pick the ones that you really love. Um, and Stephen Ramsey said, I would need to see them in person. Uh, yeah, it is something you definitely have to see. What I did, I have this my camera up over here, and so you see the the New Wave Toys is back behind it. Now it looks way smaller, but it's not quite that small. But it is considerably smaller, right? Compared to a quarter scale. And then I also have the counter cage from Arcade One Up, so you guys can get an idea if you ever seen a Arcade One Up counter cage. Um, so to give you a comparison in size, it's obviously not as heavy as an Arcade One Up counter cage, but it doesn't take up as much width. So it's a little bit taller than the counter cage, not as skinny, but just as, let's see, not almost as wide, or the depth. Let me just unplug this, put that over here. Yeah, it's as wide as the counter K minus the half of the control panel. So Maurice said he has the Space Invaders on his Legends. Yeah, I have Space Invaders on a lot of cabinets. Bobby Broadway, welcome to the show. Bobby says, Numskull has more games I grew up with. Numskull looks great. I think I would prefer them to New Wave Toys. Now, I have both, and I like both, and they definitely both they're going to appeal to for different reasons to different people. Obviously, the Numskull is going to take up more real estate. No, the New Wave Toys is going to take up less space, but as far as playable, they're both playable. But obviously, with the Numskulls, the joysticks are bigger, larger, and so you have more space, more control panel space to be able to actually play them. Neither one are you going to play for a long period of time, and to me, Space Invaders is not one of those games you're going to be playing for hours anyway, right? So I think it's the perfect size for a game such as this, where you're only going to play it for a few minutes here and there, 5-10 minutes or so. See how far you can go, and you move on. So that's the great thing about it. Now, you said you wonder why they went with a joystick. Are you saying because the original had buttons? Because the original, this is made identical to the joystick. But you're saying, why did Tato go with a joystick as opposed to two buttons to go left and right? Yeah, I couldn't tell you, but I know it. I'm trying to think. So I have the Atari Tempest cab, right? That's primarily buttons. Other than, you also have the spinner. So there were games back then. There were games that only had buttons. The joystick was a new thing coming out around that time. Pac-Man, obviously. Um, Pac-Man was a huge jump for the arcade at that time. Color, a character, where Space Invaders, you just had black and white initially, until they came out with the color in 1980 with the part 2. Which one cost the most? I think currently, I mean, they purposely, I don't know if it's purposely or licensing wise, they don't really sell the same exact cabinet, so it's kind of hard to say what you would be getting. But I believe all the prices of all these things have gone up. Let me take a look at just Amazon's price for, say, the Ninja Turtle. Do they even have a price? Because all these things are back ordered, and that's the issue with these things with both companies. If you don't get them when they come out, you don't get them, because they only create a certain number, and when those numbers are up, they're no longer available. So if you like it, you really don't have a whole lot of opportunity to get them beyond the time that they're made available, and they only make a certain number. Yeah, Space Invaders 2 has the joystick. What up, GCA? All right, so that's my camera there. I'll turn that one off. Turn this off. Now I had this on a stool as I was playing it, so it was rocking a little bit. But the nice thing about this, it uses the mirror, what they call the Pepper's Ghost effect, where the screen is actually down, like behind the control panel, and it projects up. Let's put that back on there. And it projects up to the screen. So it looks like the ghosts and the player is like floating behind that graphic there, which is a nice effect, as opposed to the screen just being there and being shown like on a normal arcade cabinet. What's going on, Goofy Foot? Welcome to the stream. So Space Invaders, again, when Space Invaders came out for me, 1980, I was transitioning from middle school to high school. I graduated in 1985. So I was in the middle school when this came out, and we played tons of whatever arcade games were available. And we played a lot of Space Invaders, but like most businesses back then, it was all about the dollar. Right? $4 at a time. They would swap out these machines whatever the more popular or the newer things were. So you only had so much time with all these cabinets if you had a place that was swapping them out. Some people, they only had access to certain games, and that's what they played. They played tons of those games, no matter what that was. For me, initially, there weren't any arcades available. We had what we call party stores, corner stores that would have 2, maybe 3 cabinets just inside the entrance of the store. We had the bowling alley, and the bowling alley had probably 6 cabinets at the front of their entrance of their bowling alley. And so we got to play whatever those games were. In my area, we had the bowling alley. We had 2 stores that were within a half mile of each other that had the majority of the games that we would play. And So Space Invaders, then you know all the home consoles all wanted to get us out of the arcades and get us to sit in front of the TVs and play their boxes. So play a lot of Space Invaders on all those other cabinets. No, you said the original cabinet. I believe the original cabinet had buttons as well. I mean joystick as well. Videos. So, Space Invaders. Nope. Original Space Invaders had a joystick as well. So I'll share. On my screen. Entire screen. So here's this is the original. This is the original Space Invaders cabinet. Joystick, one button, player one, player two. Okay, so this is what you're talking about here. I don't know what I just meant. You just mentioned it. But there was a Space Invaders that had the buttons. I don't know. And I'm not even sharing it, sorry. So, the Fist of Love, is it battery operated? And if not, will it be sold? Yeah, so it's definitely Space Invaders. All of the Numskull products, as well as the UA toys, are all battery operated. Only Arcade 1-Up with their countercase. That's the only portable arcade cabinet that maker that doesn't have sense enough to know that we don't want to have. So let's talk about the build quality. This thing is built like a tank. Let me switch back over to this screen and hide my little mug. Swap these out. All right. So it's a beautiful, beautiful looking cabinet. Now, yeah. So Goofy Foot, you said it seems to have great sound. It definitely has good sound. However, put some chords on it. If I had any gripe about the cabinet, it would be relating to the sound, but not the sound that the cabinet makes, but the sound that the cabinet doesn't make. And I'll talk about the second. So it's not super loud, but the sound is adequate. Sounds great. And if a spaceship goes by, because Space Invaders doesn't make a whole lot of noise. It doesn't make a whole lot of sounds. There's an explosion from getting crashed. It doesn't have a lot of sounds, and that's my biggest. It has a built-in rechargeable battery. That's correct. My biggest issue is, like, this was the first cabinet that had allowed you to be able to save your high score, right? Because before then they weren't thinking about that, right? And then they realized, hey, we can make this competitive and make people want to come spend more money to get their name up and play until they get their name up. And so it was a strategy for getting people to play more and for people to be able to have bragging rights, right? But what what wouldn't come until much later into different cabinets was the attract mode, right? How do we get people to notice our cabinet in the midst of all these cabinets at the arcade? So I want to announce it and draw people over. This cabinet didn't have that, what we call an attract mode. So when it's on and sitting there, it doesn't make a sound at all. It's beautiful to see, beautiful to look at, but you're not going to hear it until you actually put a credit in. And it's one of the arcades that predated the credit sound, right? When you put the credit in, it doesn't make any noise. It's just it just puts the credit in, and then once you hit the player one or player two button, then the sound would start to come out. So it has nothing to do with the quality of the cabinet or anything about is authentic to what the cabinet consists of. Um, and so it doesn't have an attract mode. So, you know, I like for my cabinets to, have attract mode features. Um, to me, part of the arcade is the sounds. With this cabinet, you would actually have to be playing the game in order for you to hear the sound. So, not really a gripe against the cabinet; it's a gripe against the technology that was available at the time when that cabinet was created. But yes, beautiful cabinet. Now I don't know. I haven't charged it up all the way to full um, yet, but I have to play around and figure out what the battery life of it is because it doesn't seem to be as long as what I would like it to be. Um, but I don't know what that time frame is at this point in time. Um, but I normally always have a plug available around, or I have my portable battery. This is the battery similar to the one, or identical to the one I have in my countercades. That thing charges up things forever, so I literally use that for everything, and it just seems to never run out of juice. So I am very impressed with this. It looks identical to the cabinet uh, that was the original cabinet for the Star Wars, Star Space Invaders. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Star Wars. Space Invaders Part Two. It looks identical. It feels fantastic. The graphics are spot on. They have not missed anything. The only thing that differs from it is probably this plaque on the back that mentions uh, Numskull Designs and Rubber Road Ltd. And obviously the volume controls here, the charging port, and the off-on switch there. Other than that, it's identical. Yep, and Goofy Foot. That's I agree. And again, those are the games. If New Wave Toys built a Star Wars, not Star Wars, Space Invaders cabinet, it wouldn't have that because it wasn't available on there. But yes, that's the thing I like about those, as well as my Arcade One Up cabinets that have instituted that. Originally, those didn't do it as well. Say like my when I had my Galaga. I got my Galaga cabinet. I'm like, this thing doesn't make any noise when it's sitting there. But that's something I definitely like. I like to turn on my machines and just have that ambience of being in the arcade. There's nothing better than that. Nothing more soothing to me. Um, I have different ways. I have my waterfall built in my backyard, and if I'm in my backyard, I turn that on. I like to be soothed by that waterfall. When I'm down here in the man cave, I'll put on uh, turn on my arcade, and that's the sound I love down here. Uh, but if you I don't know where you could go. a brick and mortar store. I'm not aware of any place that you can go to actually see and touch these things. But let me hold this in my hand so you can see the size of it in relationship to me. This thing is. Let me switch this screen off and just hide the chat for a minute. I mean, this thing is a nice size, hefty. Now, the thing looks perfect. For some reason, the camera doesn't let you see that, unless you get it probably closer. Still, I got the lights in here. Can't really get to see the marquee the way it actually looks in the real world. But you can see this thing is a nice size. It's going to take up some desk space. Okay? But it looks absolutely beautiful. And it's playable. I mean, the joysticks, the buttons, everything feels nice and clicky. This thing has some nice weight to it. Has some nice weight to it. And so let's just talk about this. It's 17 inches tall. 17 inches tall is 6.5 inches wide and is 8.8 inches deep. Okay, just so you have an idea, that thing is nice. And like I said, it has that mirror screen with the Pepper's Ghost effect, just like the original did. Ben talked about that when he was on the Super Game Rooms, the Super Game Room Dudes show. It was a challenge to reproduce that, and it looks fantastic. It looks like the characters are floating out there in space. You know, you see that background. So for the time when everything was just one color screen, you know, companies were getting creative to make their game stand out, and definitely Space Invaders did so with that Pepper's Ghost effect. What's going on, Moat? Yeah, it's a beautiful cabinet, and now my Pac-Man, I love my Pac-Man. My Numskull as well. Now I dropped this one, so it's got some repairs I have to do to the top, but I still have not been compelled to buy, say, an Arcade 1-Up Pac-Man cabinet, because my Numskull looks absolutely beautiful. It looks just like the original, plays like the original, and this is a great size. I can play Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, all the Pac-Mans, Pac-Man Plus on a bunch of different cabinets, but I like to be able to go up to this Pac-Man cabinet and play for a few minutes. Sometimes I take it to work and leave it on my desk, you know, for a season, and be able to just play when I have some time. So I like the size of this. I like the look of it. I think where these are perfect additions are if you have like a bar, a home bar, you know, that would decorate the bar great. Doesn't take up that much space. People could play. They're not going to play for long. It'll look absolutely beautiful, sound incredible, and allow people to actually play where you might not have the space to have an Arcade 1-Up size Pac-Man. But again, I'm just making you aware of what this product is, how I like it. I like the brand a lot. They're just a great size, but they're quarter scale. They're quarter scale, so they're 17 inches tall, 6.5 inches wide and 8 inches deep. They're a nice size, nice and hefty. Just small enough to sneak it past the wife. That's right, Goofyfoot. She is none the wiser about any of these new cabinets coming in the house. Um, and they look absolutely beautiful. How much are they? Um, they vary in prices because these things are collectibles. They only come out with a certain number, and people buy them up, and sometimes uh, they resell them at a much higher price, and they're sold all over the world. So I'm just trying to see. Whenever I look on these links, it's tough to get a price because everything's sold out or they're marked up because people. But yeah, around $300. I know I paid for Pac-Man. I only paid like maybe 150 for my Pac-Man. Uh, but that was a couple of years ago. The prices are gone up. Yep, my both of these units came with the coin. I know the Space Invaders comes with the stool with the pre-orders, so you have a stool, a matching stool that would go with it, which is pretty neat. I don't have that stool, but it did come with the coin, a collector's coin for it, which is pretty slick. And so Rob C has a comment here. He says, "I collect both the quarter scale numbskull and the 1/6 scale replicate. If you are planning on building a multi cabinet diorama, I would suggest confirming you have enough room if you go with Numskull." Yeah, I would say the same thing with even the New Wave toys. Either way, you if you're going to be collecting multiple, you want to make sure that you have enough space. Because I had to get a special cabinet just for my line of New Wave toys to sit on, and I got to find the perfect spot because right now I have these sitting on this little folding table, little white table. Unless I put like a little cover over that table, it doesn't have the right look that I want. Right, so I may just get another shelf that I can put in. Now in my man cave, I have no walls. I have what one friend said, it looks like a Dexter's basement. Right, I got the plastic walls, with the builders. Uh, what do you call it? The builders. My brain is fried. Um, what do you call installation? The builder's installation on the wall. So I don't have any walls. I'd love to have some shelves to be able to put up. My one of my best friends, he's a real Star Wars collector. He has all kinds of Star Wars collectibles, and he put these shelves up in his office, all around the top, and he has all his figurines and things on the shelf. They look absolutely nice, glass shelves, so you can see through and see the items, and it look fantastic. I am so envious of you guys that have walls. Um, I've thought about, and I don't want to get this basement finished because if I get it finished, I'm gonna lose it to the wife and the girls. I already know they'll be down here. See, right now they're not down here. No bathroom, no walls, no carpet, so they don't hang. They don't hang out here. So it's mine, even though they say it's everybody's. It's mine because they don't come down here. If I finish it, I'll lose it. So, but what I've thought about doing is getting these panels, these faux wood panels that I can uh, put up on the wall. But they're they're relatively expensive, like $45 a panel for like a 8 foot by 4 foot panel, and I would need several hundreds of those, several $100 worth, probably about $600 worth of them to get to do the area that I would like. So it's the cost of one of these cabinets that we buy. Um, I hate to do it if I will finish it, right? Because then that's just a few $100 down the drain to tear them down and put drywall up. So that's what I'm contemplating. Uh oh, goofy fit. I think I hope I didn't. Goofy Foot, I clicked the wrong button, and I think you're good. All right, I didn't put you in timeout. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did. Say something, Goofy Foot. I just want to make sure you're still here. But Carl O was saying it's a cave for a reason to keep the lady folks out. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm not sure if Numskull has a Street Fighter 2. Not sure. Mike Hawk had some comments about it. Future releases. Now, yeah. So Mike Hawk hurts. What's going on, my brother? Um, so yeah. So the difference between a Numskull, Numskull is completely a recreation of the original cabinet with no additives, right? Um, the only difference, like I said, is the power and volume and power button controls. The New Wave toys, theirs that have HDMI out, you can hook it up to your TV and do things like that, and they also have always add a what I call like an Easter egg, right? There's always something unique with each cabinet. They may uh, have interchangeable uh, ball tops. The Dragon's Lair has the disc, a mock up of the actual laser disc player with an actual laser disc you can put in there. Uh, the ghouls and goblins, ghosts and goblins, those cabinets you can actually insert actual little tiny coins that come with quarters that come with it. So they always do some extra with it. Numskull is just strictly a recreation of it at quarter scale. Um, and so if you're looking for those little Easter egg type uh, features or want to do HDMI out, you would have to go with New Wave Toys. All right. Yeah, Goofy Foot, the band button just loves you for some reason. Um, no, but I clicked on one of those three dots and it had was saying something. I wasn't sure if I free Goofy Foot. He's free. He's free. He's safe. Don't worry about it. So Mike Hawkhurst has responded to Rob C. The quarter arcade owner confirmed in his interview with Cool Toy that they will eventually be able to release the Street Fighter 2 quarter scale. All right, so let me see. Not that. I want to. So here is control panel. So obviously you have a much more space on this cabinet than you would with the 1/6 scale of New Wave toys. So again, they're appealing to different needs, right? With quarter scale versus 1/16 scale. The same way, you're appealing to a different crowd if you're going with 3/4 scale arcade versus full size scale, right? The scales of a machine dictates who's going to purchase it, who's going to be interested in it, where it's going to fit into your house. Will it fit into your game room, open spaces that you have? All these things are the same considerations you would have with getting a full size cabinet applies to the small scale, right? Do I have enough room for it? Where can I put it? Is it worth the money, right? Is the wife going to gripe if I bring another one of these things in here and stick it in there, right? All the same worries don't go away with a smaller scale. They all apply the same. So here's that ghost, Pepper's ghost effect. You can see that you got that graphic in the back, like a crater, and then you have this image reflected up onto that screen. So you're essentially putting two screens together to present this play field for the game. Yeah, and I agree, Thor. The course field. I initially I had my Numskull before I had the New Wave toys, so I didn't get the appeal of why you would want to go smaller, um, because these things are so playable at the quarter scale, and they look absolutely beautiful. But I've come to like the 1/6 scale for other reasons, not so much for the playability, but for the look of uh, recreating a small tabletop arcade. So that's where the 1/6 scale fits in for me. I can replicate, the look of the arcade on the tabletop. Here, I would have to have a pool table size to go and reproduce the same arcade look with the quarter scale. Yeah, I've seen a few people that talked about these stands. Um, Mike, if you can send me a link to this or a link, put the link into the description or the comment section here, that'd be great, man. Because I know that um, what's my brother from another mother, Mr. Brooks, Mad Dad's Gaming. He had done a stand for the countercade, but he obviously made it for himself. And I know JC over at Tulsa Arcade talked about it at one point in time. Um, but I think the challenge was, one, we couldn't all build one like Mad Dad's did, and two, I think Tulsa at the time I don't think he had gotten the cost made it cost effective or cost um, it was cost prohibitive for me. And then you had to get different graphics. So if someone just sold one where I could just get it with the graphics, that would be fantastic. So I'm interested in seeing what GI Joel has for the countercades. I don't have a two-player countercades. I have one-player countercades, but I'd be interested in getting more. So does the moon back base backdrop have a black light like the original? Uh, it has a light back there for certain. I don't know if it's a black light. Let me switch back over to here. So ask me one more time. We got too much of a reflection to let you see anything in there. Um, it does have. Oh, I see what you're saying. It's up at the top. See there? So they have that emulated, that black light bar at the top. Now whether it's real black, a real black light, and they're not, but yes, they are emulating Goofy Foot, that black light, just like the original. Good question. Good question. See, we have some pros that knows about their cabinets. So to answer your question, yes. All right. So any other questions about the cabinets? And so I have a question for you. What cabinet? What cabinet could Numskull make that would compel you to buy a quarter scale version of it? So it had to be a cabinet you just absolutely love, right? Because you want to showcase this. And you can put this obviously in a place you can't put arcade 1 up 3/4 scale cabinet, and that's the beauty of this. You can showcase this around in your office. You can showcase this somewhere else in the home. You can showcase it in your game room, say in your man cave, in the area. Like in my scenario, I have the cabinets behind me, and then my man cave area there with my TV and all those things. Um, I get to showcase and have that feel of the arcade uh, on that side of the room where that's not the primary focus, right? Um, so Joel stands are $100. I wanted those other options in the past, but we're just way too expensive. Yeah. So Goofyfoot says Gorf is the cabinet he would love to see as a quarter uh, scale arcade. Carl says 720. Is that a cabinet? I'm not familiar with that. Or is that the price you would pay for a counter arcade stand? Uh, Mike Hawkhurst says, I think I would buy a Ghostbusters numbskull that was already teased for 2024 as long as it's not too overpriced. See, Ghostbusters arcade is not something from my from my history. I don't think I've ever played the arcade, so that's something I don't relate to. I have no idea how it plays. You know, okay, so 720 is a cabinet. Okay, I have to look that up. I'm not familiar with 720 arcade cabinet. What is that? Oh, whoa. Okay, that's you can go get this one full scale for $4,800. Yeah, I am not familiar with this at all. And what is that? Is that a race car? I don't know what that is. Skateboard. Oh, first skateboard game. Space. I'm sorry. First skateboard game ever made. Okay, interesting. You learn something new every day. If not, you're dead. Right? So, yeah, that would be pretty cool there. Anybody else? A cabinet that you would want to see that will compel you to purchase a quarter scale version of it to showcase in your office, on your desk, in your man cave, maybe upstairs in your family room, in your bedroom, where you got for those who have the 1/6 scale or even the quarter scale. Where do you guys have these? Do you have them in your office? Do you have them in your game room? Do you have them somewhere else? Do you have them on a shelf somewhere? Where are you guys displaying your smaller scale cabinets? I know someone just mentioned they have the stand because they want to be able to uh, show off their countercade better. Because I know mine usually are on the floor at the foot of. I don't know if you can see one back there. You see it back there next between Big Blue and the Killer Instinct is where, and I have the other one normally the one Galaga I have right there usually between the Blitz and the Killer Instinct, um, because I don't have a stand to put my countercades on. Um, so a fist of love says play choice 10 maybe. So Thor said he has his replicas in his office, and the quarter scales are in his arcade. Okay. You just want to make sure you have them in a safe place. I had my Pac-Man on top of my IRK cabinet, and I went to move the cabinet for some reason, just an inch or so, and I forgot that was on top, and down it came to the cement floor, and I had to piece it back together like Humpty Dumpty. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not get it back quite the way it was in the beginning, but it's still playable, still looks good. Just has some beauty marks now. So Goofy Foot has his in his living room now, and see that's interesting. I've seen people, and I know Damon. I've been to his house here in Michigan. He has like virtual fighters in his. He has two virtual fighters. I don't know why you would need two virtual fighters or two of the same cabinets. Yeah, I know people do all the time. I don't get it myself, but he had two of those in his kitchen. He has two of those in his kitchen. I see people that have these full size arcade cabinets all throughout their house, and I know my wife would not go for that. They have literally in every room in the house, and so this these quarter scale arcade cabinets can fit a little easier into those spaces, right? Without having the wife want to chop your head off. Um, and so that's where they come in. The best of two worlds. And speaking of two words, Donkey Kong, yeah, I would get a Donkey Kong version from Numskull, from New Wave Toys, and anybody else that would make a complete replica, complete carbon copy of the original Donkey Kong, uh, that would be showcased somewhere prominently in my space, for sure. So I agree, Donkey Kong would do it. I'm not sure what you're saying here, Carl. O. Order now, coupon, Carl. Um, but yeah, so I am definitely a big fan of the quarter scale size. Uh, it's compact enough to fit into just about any space. Um, it's portable, yet it doesn't have a handle. You know, so you have to hold it with two hands. Because the original didn't have a handle, so you can't have a handle on this, um, because none of these, none of the 1/6 scales or the quarter scales have handles because they're complete copies of the original. Um, but they have some girth to them. You don't want to drop it. They're made of wood, quality material. They look absolutely beautiful. Um, they're a collector's item. The value of them goes up the minute you buy them because they're not going to be available after that, and so a lot of people resell them in the aftermarket. Um, but I've never been one to buy those anything. I'll just do without versus paying double the price of it. But if it's something you're interested in, and they have a cabinet that comes out, both both companies do the same thing. They rarely ever reproduce uh, items that they made available at the time when they're made available for pre-orders, and they both similarly do where they take pre-orders. So they're building what the demand is, right? People let it be known that they want those, and they do the pre-orders, and that's better to do a pre-order as opposed to like a Kickstarter where you could give money and may never ever get the product if something goes wrong. At least in these scenarios, these pre-orders are going to be met. Um, so Goofy Foot says his is in his living room. He says he expanded on that. He said he has a small arcade set up in the living room, just the favorites of his wife and his. All the rest are in a dedicated arcade room. So mine, I have moved my arcade one up cabinets. I've had them for a short time in the family room when I just had two cabinets. They were up in my loft on the second floor for a short time, um, but they've been primarily here. And I've actually moved my arcade one ups and taken them to different venues for parties and things like that. Um, Always risky, but at least you can do it. Me by myself, and transport them. Um, Having the riser, I never really quite sure if that's a plus, pro or con in the travels, because you always got to try and obviously you can separate the weight, but then you got to put them back together, and I'm always scraping something, so I wrestle with that. But these little devices are definitely conversation pieces. They're definitely eye catchers. They're definitely awesome to display. Um, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of New Wave toys. I'm a big fan of Numskull. I think they appeal to people for different reasons. Um, Obviously, if you really, really like something, the bigger, the more playable it is. To me, it's the better it is. But like I said, unfortunately, these two companies don't really make the same products, and so you have to choose what product, which cabinet that you like, and you have to get it from that company that makes it. So it, I don't really see them as really competing against each other, because they're creating totally different products at totally different sizes for different demographics. But I would say I purchased the Pac-Man with my own money because I absolutely had to have that. At the time, Arcade One Up hadn't made one that looked like this one here, and they've gotten close to it, but still not at the point where I can pull the trigger on it. I'm still waiting for the perfect Pac-Man at a quarter scale. I'm sorry, at a three-quarter scale. But until then, my quarter scale Pac-Man uh, allows me to get the nostalgic feel, sound, gameplay, everything I like, uh, and I can showcase it. I can take it places, and take it to the office and showcase it. I can, take it upstairs and showcase it when I'm having parties. Um, these things are nice to kind of advertise when we have people over, that we have an arcade in the house, so I can stage these around the house upstairs, have that sound effect going. The ones that have a track mode, and um, and it gets people talking about, oh man, I love Pac-Man. Oh well, and then that usually get them down here to the real, or the the larger cabinets, as well as people take time to play them on these scales as well. So just so I don't always have mine upstairs like Goofy Foot does in the living room, but I will take these up and place them on the counters, on the coffee tables, in different places during events, because people love the arcade. People love these retro games. Uh, there's not been a single person that's come to my house that have not enjoyed the arcade, um, that didn't enjoy talking about their favorite arcade game and the memories that they had with their father or their brother or their best friend. These things are not just things; they're they're um, memory triggers, right? They're they're great conversation starters, and they're absolutely beautiful to display in whatever space that you have. So, Mike, these things are rechargeable. They are rechargeable. I think they will turn themselves off after a certain amount of time if you hadn't interacted with them to conserve the battery. But they are battery operated, rechargeable built-in battery, that's recharged by a USB-C cable, similar to the newer New Wave toys cabinets. Um, so on the back, you simply have. And so I I'm not I don't have it plugged in, but I usually have my battery nearby just in case, because I don't always have power cores available. Um, but it has built in, so it has volume, the volume, the charging light when it's being charged. So if I plug in this power cable to it, then that red light comes on to let you know it's being charged. And so it has the port for the USB-C and then the on-off switch. And so you have the credit to you apply credits by clicking the button here. That puts in the credits. You can do two-player, one or two players. So you have those two buttons there, and then you have your joystick and your fire button. You have the Pepper's Ghost effect. So the ghosts look like they're just, or the spaceships or the invaders look like they're floating out in space over the background. Like Goofy Foot indicated, you have that black light effect above the screen, casting down on it. So they did a great job of replicating this thing to the T. It looks identical to the Space Invaders Part 2 cabinet. Identical, other than that charging port at the base. But you have the vents, the plaque. The plaque is obviously different. You got your vents up there. You got your key to access this panel. You have the panel drawn up the same way it would have been with the screw holes to be able to take it off in the real world to service it. You have the cash box on the bottom with the keyhole and the coin door, speaker grill. Everything's built identical. So Biggie D's Arcade is in the house. Show $339 online for pre-order. Is that the correct price? I believe it is for both. I think for pre-orders. Yeah. So if now again, you can go and buy a Space Invaders from My Arcade and all these other little places, things, and they'll mimic the gameplay, and it might have a console version of it. It may have whatever shape it has. It might be handheld. You can get Space Invaders a bunch of different ways, but you're not going to get Space Invaders that mimics the exact way that the cabinet is made. And if that's important to you, that's what this cabinet is for. This is for someone who loves Space Invaders, the nostalgic rewind to that time in space and in the memories of their past, where they absolutely love this. They played this with their buddies, with their parents, with their friends, with their family, and they want to be able to showcase this in their house. That's simply it. You know what I mean? We can compare the price. If it's $339, you say, oh well, I can get a Blitz cabinet, 3/4 scale Blitz cabinet for that price. Again, this is not for somebody who wants the quarter scale. This is for someone who wants a small version that they can showcase and be able to play and have it play identical to the original. Again, same way people collect and buy figurines and lifesavers and all kinds of things that they really love. This is not for some. This is not a what's the word I'm looking for when you walk out the grocery store and they have that stuff lined up at the cash register, right? What's that word I'm looking for? Spontaneous purchase, right? This is not for someone who's like, oh, I'm just going. No, this is for somebody who wants this, right? If you have to question it, it's not for you because you want to be able to showcase this, be able to play this, and be able to say this thing is identical to what I used to play back in 1980. So Mike Hurt says, if you were going to get my arcade just to display, the Street Fighter 2 CE has the original arcade ROM. If you put it on a small stand, it displays nice next to the replicates. Um, yeah, yeah. Space Invaders was not before my time, but Space Invaders, there's a whole lot of things came out since Space Invaders, right? So Galaga came out after this, and well before a whole lot of better games, but Galaga is my go-to game that I'm gonna go old school and just play for hours. Um, this Space Invaders is a collectible to add to the ambience of my man cave, to go with the theme, because my theme is clearly arcade, um, and so this is a great piece for my game room, along with my 3/4 scales, along with my 1/6 scale, and and now with my two quarter scales. It these things make a game room. Like I said, the my only gripe with it doesn't have the attract mode and broadcast the sounds without you playing it. But again, that's not has nothing to do with Numskull, because that's what the original lacked. You know. Um, so Biggie D said the first game he remembers playing uh, Mortal Kombat 1. Almost all the other My Arcades are using the NES or Genesis ROMs, which are disappointing. And and see, some people they're because our natural progression from the arcade was to the console, right? And so a lot of games like Ghosts and Goblins, a lot of people didn't play those on the arcade; they played those on the consoles. So it'll be interesting to see, and we've kind of seen that where you have these mini consoles coming back, because that's nostalgic for a lot of people, right? Those consoles. I'm 57, so my middle school to high school was spent in the arcades. For some of you guys, while I was off to college, you guys were in the arcades, right? And so you guys were playing games that I didn't really play in the arcades because I was off in school, and then I had my son and raising a family, right? And so I was at um, Chuck E. Cheese playing whatever games they had there with the kids, as opposed to being in the regular arcade where you guys were. So everyone has a different story, everyone has a different history, um, everyone has a different nostalgic pool, right? So all of these products, not one product is going to have the same draw and attraction and pull on every person. Every person has those set of cabinets that appeal to them and make their mouth water, right? It's like, oh, I gotta have that. Oh, that's it's a no-brainer. When they see it, when they hear about it, when it's talked about, pre-releases, sneak sneak previews, rumors. Everyone has those cabinets that they hope that they could get their hands on, whether it's full size, 3/4 scale size, 1/4 scale, or 1/6 scale. We all have a cabinet that we would grab if it was made at the right price and at the right size for our need. So I think we've been going over an hour now. I appreciate you guys coming to hang out with me, guys. I truly hope for the people who haven't had a chance to see this, um, I hope this gave you an idea of the size, of the quality, of the gameplay, of the portability, of the rechargeability. Whatever the questions that you had, I hope I was able to answer. Um, I want to thank Numskull for providing this for me for review. Um, Again, they provided this Space Invaders, not Space, yeah, Space Invaders Part Two for me. I purchased the Pac-Man on my own. Uh, for me, the Pac-Man was a no-brainer. As soon as I saw it, I said, I got to have it. Um, so I hope that Numskull looked at what suggestions you guys made for to consider for future cabinets. I hope that you guys uh, are able to get that cabinet for you that's a no-brainer for you to purchase, because I know you like me. These cabinets are not just games. They're not just toys. They're not just um, things. They're not just desk shit. They are um, carriers of memories, right? Um, the look, just to look at the cabinet will spark back great memories. To hear the sounds from the cabinets will spark great memories of years gone by. And thanks to these companies, we've all have the ability to play these in our own home, to have them look, feel, and sound just like what we remembered in the arcades. There's no greater feeling than to be able to experience that, and to share that with other people, and to be able to bring that same joy to people when they come into your space. So, guys, I appreciate you. Yes. Um, Hey, Kerry Bagman, I appreciate you, man. I'm going to plan an event here in Michigan. There's a place called the Arcade that's in Brighton, Michigan, and I'm going to do a greet and meet this spring. I'm gonna put out the word early, mention it several times, and I want to do a meet and greet with all the people that's here in Michigan and in Ohio and Ontario that listen to the channel, that love and have the same passion. We'll have to do a greet and meet at the arcade, because they have tons of games there. Pinball arcade is one price, and maybe I can get a special price if we can fill up the whole joint. But it's always great to see um, guys in the neighborhood. I'm right up the street from you, and I love to meet you guys and go play some games together. So again, I appreciate you guys for supporting the channel, for coming in and supporting the live. I don't do these a lot, but I can talk about these things forever. But I know we all got some things to do. Um, and until next time, guys, I'll see you on the web.
For watching Detroit Love. Please subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. We want to see and read your comments below. And until next time, I'll see you on the web.